So basically last time we saw agglomerative and divisive clustering. So just to revise it very quickly, we have a concept of hierarchical clustering. We try and create clusters in a particular hierarchy. So as you can see, this tree diagram shows a hierarchy of clusters. If I go from bottom up, okay, then it is an agglomerative kind of clustering. Whereas if I go from top down, then it is a divisive kind of clustering. With agglomerative cluster, you start with every point in its own cluster and try and combine based on the similarity between the points. Divisive, you follow the exactly opposite approach. You start with all the points in one single cluster, and then you go on dividing based on the differentiation characteristics in it. Okay. Now we go ahead with the next concept, that is called as partitional clustering. So partitional clustering means what? We are trying to divide whatever data points we have, whatever data objects we have, we are trying to divide those objects into non-overlapping subsets. Now these non-overlapping subsets is what I call as clusters. Okay. So non-overlapping का मतलब क्या है कि एक particular object सिर्फ एक ही cluster को belong कर सकता है. ऐसा नहीं होगा कि वो object दो clusters में है. That should not happen. Okay, so partitional clustering will decompose a data set into set of disjoint clusters. Disjoint means what? The clusters that do not have any common elements. Okay. Now, if I have a data set of n points, then the partitioning method will construct k clusters or k partitions of the data where the number k has to be less than or equal to n. Remember, n is the number of our data points. Okay. Now, we have k groups which are supposed to satisfy two requirements. The first requirement is that each group contains at least one point. Each group should contain at least one point. And second requirement is that each point belongs to exactly one group. Each point belongs to exactly one group. So what are the implications of these 2 points? First point अगर आप फिर से एक बार पढ़ोगे तो आपको समझ में आएगा कि each group contains at least one point, मतलब कोई भी ग्रुप empty नहीं होना चाहिए. कोई भी ग्रुप क्या नहीं होना चाहिए? empty नहीं होना चाहिए. ओके. एंड अगर सेकंड पॉइंट फिर से एक बार पढ़ोगे कि ईच पॉइंट बिलोंग्स टू एग्जैक्टली वन ग्रुप. सो एक भी ऐसा पॉइंट नहीं होना चाहिए जो 2 या 3 ग्रुप्स को बिलोंग करता है. ऐसा एक भी पॉइंट नहीं होना चाहिए जो 2 या 3 ग्रुप्स को बिलोंग करता है. ओके. नाउ partitioning clustering algorithms, they try to minimize some kind of objective function. ओके. सो जो भी उसका ऑब्जेक्टिव फंक्शन है उसको वो मिनिमाइज करने की कोशिश करेगा. अभी व्हाट आर द एग्जांपल्स ऑफ दिस क्लस्टरिंग मेथड? यू नो के मीन्स क्लस्टरिंग या के midioids clustering. Then these two examples come under partitional clustering. Okay. So let's say the function is distance x of j comma center of I. Now suppose the cluster I का सेंटर है. ओके. एंड हर एक पॉइंट का सेंटर से जो डिस्टेंस है वो मिनिमम होना चाहिए. सो द पॉइंट शुड बी क्लोज टू वन अनदर. द पॉइंट शुड बी क्लोज टू वन अनदर एंड दे शुड बी क्लोज टू द सेंटर. They should be close to the center. Am I very clear on this? Okay. Now we go ahead to something that is called as ANOVA. What is full form of ANOVA? Anyone knows full form of ANOVA? नहीं पता है अभी तक? Okay. It is analysis of variance. Sorry, just give me a minute. Yeah, I was saying analysis of variance. It is what? Analysis of variance. Am I clear on this? Okay. Now, the ANOVA test allows you to compare more than two groups at the same time to find out whether some kind of relationship exists between them. Now, whenever we talk about analyzing factors and how those factors affect the given data set, we perform ANOVA test. Okay? Now, let us take an example. You have a campaign called as buy one get one free, and you are executing that campaign in 5 groups of 100 customers each. So how many groups do we have? 5 groups. Now, what is different in each group is that every group has a different demographic attributes. It has different demographic attributes. So मुझे ये पता करना है ये campaign से कि for a particular set of demographic attributes, how should I tweak my or how should I change my campaign? Because अलग अलग demographic set of people को address करने के लिए आपको अलग अलग tactics use करने पड़ेंगे. So I need to figure out what is the right campaigning strategy for a right demographic group, so that my overall effectiveness of the campaign will increase. Okay? Now, what will I do is I'll perform analysis of variance. I asked you what is ANOVA. ANOVA is nothing but it is analysis of variance. Okay? It compares the variance between the groups to that within the group. अभी between the groups मतलब क्या? Let us just understand what I'm drawing over here. This is group A. This is group B. Now group A has, let's say, 5 to 7 members. Similarly, group B also has 5 to 7 members. Now, just tell me one thing. Are all the members in group A the same? The answer is no. So, within the group also there is some kind of variance. Yes or no? Within the group also there is some kind of variance. So that variance I want to compare with between the group. Between the group मतलब group A and group B के बीच का variance मुझे compare करना है. किससे compare करना है? Within the group के variance से. I hope you have understood between the group and within the group. Yes, the concepts are clear, guys. Now, what is the formula? F is nothing but it is an ANOVA coefficient. MST is nothing but mean sum of squares due to the treatment. And MSE is nothing but mean sum of squares due to the error. Now, you just have to by heart this formula. Very simple formula it is there. Now, there are 2 types of ANOVA. That is one-way ANOVA and two-way ANOVA. Abhi in one-way ANOVA, what do I have? I have a solve factor and a solve response variable. Now you will ask me कि ये solve factor and solve response variable क्या है? Solve means single. Solve means single. So single factor means single input. Single factor means single input. And solve response means what? Any guesses? Response is what? Output ना? Yes or no? So कितने input variables हैं और कितने output variables हैं मेरे पास? एक input variable है, एक output variable है. Understanding? Okay. Now, it will determine or it will work to check if all the samples are same or no. Okay. Abhi one-way ANOVA is also used to determine whether there are any statistical significant differences between means of 3 or more independent, that is unrelated groups. अभी यहाँ पे हम लोग ने 5 ग्रुप्स का एग्जाम्पल लिया था कि 100 customers के 5 groups are there with me and I am trying to judge what is the difference between those 5 groups so that I can have right campaign for each of those 5 groups. Okay, this is one way ANOVA. Two way ANOVA में क्या होगा? Two way ANOVA is just an extension of one way ANOVA. In one way ANOVA there is a single factor and single response variable. I repeat, factor is nothing but input, it is nothing but independent variable, it is nothing but explanatory variable. Again and again I am telling you the same thing. Do not get confused with different words. I told you कि जितना भी books पढ़ोगे उतने examples आपको मिलते जाएंगे. उतने examples मतलब उतने अलग अलग words use किए हुए मिलते जाएंगे. So factor, input, independent variable, explanatory variable, they mean the same thing. Response, output, dependent variable, okay, they mean the same thing. Now one way ANOVA में क्या था? One independent variable था and one dependent variable था. In two way ANOVA there are two independent variables. So for example, I want to compare the worker's productivity based on two independent variables. One is the skill of the worker and second one is the salary that the worker is taking. Okay, so two way ANOVA कब use करोगे? जब आपको interaction observe करना है between two factors and how those two factors are affecting your result at the same time, तब आप two way ANOVA use करोगे. Any doubt till now? Any doubt? हाँ, in one way ANOVA there is one independent variable, one dependent variable. So how that independent variable is affecting the dependent variable, that is studied. Okay, but many a times one single variable does not affect the dependent variable. There are two or more variables which affect the dependent variable. So इसीलिए two way ANOVA picture में आता है. Two way ANOVA में there are two independent variables which are resulting into an effect on dependent variable. So in two way ANOVA, let us take an example which is given over here. Productivity of worker is a dependent variable. It is your output variable. Correct? It is your response variable. किस पे डिपेंडेंट होता है वर्कर का प्रोडक्टिविटी? एक तो उसका स्किल कितना अच्छा है उस पे एंड दूसरा उसको सैलरी कितना मिल रहा है उस पे. You know, a simple thing may be a very skillful worker may not give his or her best because the person is not getting enough salary. Or a worker which has very good salary may not be skillful. The situations can be anything. So I need to figure out how these two independent variables, how these two explanatory variables are affecting my output variable, that is the productivity. Understood? So in that case, I have to go with two way ANOVA. Now the next concept that we have is of decision trees. The next concept that we have is of what? Decision trees. Now you are going to make sequence of decisions and consequences in a decision tree. So let's say that I have inputs. My input is denoted by X. So X is nothing but it is set of smaller inputs. X1, X2, X3 up till Xn. And using the set of inputs that I am choosing, I have to predict my response or output variable, that is Y. Okay, each member of this set, that is X1, X2, X3 up till Xn, is called as my input variable. It is called as my input variable. Okay, now how does a decision tree look like? A decision tree has test points and branches. So test point is where you are going to make a decision. And depending upon what decision you make, you will decide which branch you will go ahead with. Okay? And when you reach the final point, your prediction is made. Okay? Lots of data mining applications use decision tree for classification purpose. Lots of data mining applications will use decision tree for which purpose? Classification purpose. Now, जो input variables होते हैं या input values होते हैं decision tree के, they can either be categorical or they can be continuous. They can either be categorical or they can be continuous. What is the example of categorical and continuous that we had taken prior? In case you guys remember, I had given you an example that percentage is a continuous value. So someone can have 79.5%, someone else can have 80.63%, someone else can have 45.77%, right? The values are continuous. Whereas the grade of a student, the grade achieved by a student is a categorical variable. Why categorical? Because I have O grade, I have A grade, I have B grade, C and then D. But there is nothing between O and A, there is nothing between B and C. You have categories. So either the student has achieved A grade or the student has achieved B grade. There is nothing like between A and B. So there are distinct categories. Am I very clear on this? Any doubt? Now, as I told you, what is the structure of the decision tree? The structure of the decision tree has test points in it. What are the test points? We also call those test points as nodes. Okay, so let us take an example. Here, gender is a test point. Age is a test point. After the test point, depending upon the value, we are deciding on which branch to follow. We are deciding on which branch to follow. Okay. Now, a node which does not have any further branches. A node which does not have any further branches is called as a leaf node. Now, when you reach the leaf node, you actually get a class label and it has some implementations or it can return some probability scores. In short, when you reach a leaf node in the decision tree, you are getting the output of your decision tree. Okay, you are getting the output of your decision tree. Now, a decision tree may be converted into set of decision rules. Okay, how can the decision rule look like? Can you see the example over here? Can you tell me which variables are used over here? What are the variables used in this example? Perfect. If the income is less than something and the mortgage amount is greater than something, then you are saying the default is equal to true with the probability of 75%. Now, what is default over here? Can you guess? Is default your input variable or it is your output variable? It is your output variable. It is which variable? It is your output variable. Am I very clear on this? Okay. Now, the decision trees can have two varieties. एक होता है classification trees, दूसरा होता है regression trees. Classification trees are used to have output variables that are categorical. So generally binary होते हैं वो nature में. Yes or no. The customer will purchase or not purchase. The loan should be approved or not approved. ऐसे सब चीजें. Classification trees. Regression trees can apply to output variables that are numerical or continuous in nature. So maybe they are having a likelihood of that the subscription will purchase. So सिर्फ purchased या not purchased नहीं बोला है, likelihood क्या है purchase करने का, या price क्या है एक particular good का. Okay, ऐसे जब चीजें predict करनी होती है then you can use regression trees. Let us see an example over here and let us understand some aspects of it. The node which has no parent, the node which has no parent is called as a root node. Okay, also called as top internal node. It has branches coming out of it. Income is another internal node. Age is second internal node. The distance between the first and second node is depth of 1. If I ask you what is the distance between gender and no, what should be your answer? What is the depth between gender and no? The depth is 2. The depth is how much? 2. If I want to come here, I'll come like this, isn't it? So depth of 1, depth of 1. So the total depth is 2. Am I clear on these concepts? Understandable? And then finally क्या है? I have leaf nodes. As I told you, leaf nodes will be my class labels. Leaf nodes will be my class labels. Okay. Now, what this decision tree is trying to do is, this decision tree is trying to predict whether the customer will buy the product or no. Okay. So I'll just give you one example. And I want you to tell me what will be the decision taken by this tree. Okay, the example is, the person is a female with income of 50,000 rupees. The person is a female with the income of 50,000 rupees. Come on, think. Female matlab this side. Income is 50,000. So left branch or right branch? Yes. So will the person buy the product? No. You're getting it? Now, next you have to answer. Carefully listen to the question. Male with income of 20,000. Male with an income of 20,000 will buy the product. Am I very clear on this? Yes? Okay. Now you have to understand that every internal node that you have, it refers to any attribute or it refers to an input variable. So for example, this internal node refers to age, whereas this internal node refers to income. Now, it is very clear that you guys are not paying attention at all. What did I ask you? A male with the income of 30,000. Do you think when I am taking the gender male, am I looking at the income or I am looking at the age? ठीक है, okay. I was just trying to check how much attentive you guys are. So basically you have to understand that in every internal node that we have, we are looking at one input variable. Is it possible that for both male and female I'll check income only? If I am checking income only, then, and if I am checking the same slots, there is no use of this variable over here. Are you understanding? So decision tree बनाते वक्त जो भी आप वेरिएबल स्टडी करना चाहते हो उसको लॉजिकली अरेंज करना इम्पॉर्टेंट है. आई होप यू हैव गॉट माई पॉइंट, राइट? सो आई आस्क यू द क्वेश्चन अगेन नाउ. सी इफ यू कैन आंसर इट स्टिल. अ मेल विथ एज ऑफ 30 years will buy the product or no? And what about the female with age of 50 years? Absolutely correct, because in case of female, what is the variable that we are looking at? We are looking at the income. I hope I am very clear how you will read this tree. Yes, no? So even when you are studying, you are reading the book, you have to be very cautious. Okay, you cannot just blindly read. Okay, ये जो explanation है, ये exactly same explanation है जो मैंने आपको orally दिया है, इसलिए मैं ये फिर से read करने वाली नहीं हूँ. Okay, I hope that is fine with you all. Sorry, I did not hear you. Can you repeat what you said? Yes, exact same चीजें लिखी है. Okay. Now, where will I use the decision tree? सबसे पहला, because the decision trees are easy to construct and they are easy to understand and easy to explain also, they are widely used. So maybe I want to classify the animals. I have a checklist of symptoms during a doctor's evaluation of patient. Video game के लिए whenever AI algorithms are used, decision tree is one of the algorithm that is used. Retailers can use decision trees to segment the customers or to predict the response rate to the marketing and promotion campaigns they are doing. Financial institutes will use decision tree to check whether the loan should be approved or no. Okay, या फिर ये predict करना है कि the customer will repay the loan or the customer will not repay the loan. In all these cases, you can use decision tree. So if anyone is asking you what are the application areas of decision tree or what are the use cases of decision tree, you are going to write the same answer. Okay, whenever you are solving any MSc level paper, you have to be very careful about the words of the question. Many times the words are such that आपको लगेगा कि अरे this is तो not taught to us, but ऐसा नहीं होगा. Are you understanding? Now if you get a question called as application of decision trees, you will say मैम ने तो application सिखाया ही नहीं. Yes or no? But this is what application is. Are you getting it? So case studies पूछने दो, examples पूछने दो, where decision trees are used पूछने दो या application पूछने दो, the answer remains the same. Am I very clear on this, guys? Okay. Now we are going ahead with the next chapter, that is transform superstep. Now, what does transform superstep help us do? And before we go to that, where does transform superstep come? What is the first superstep? Who can answer? Is it retrieve? What is the second superstep? Assess. Perfect. What is the third superstep? What is the next superstep? Transform. Correct? Now, the transform superstep allows to take the data from the data world and formulate answers to the question. So, transform superstep will not consider the complete data from the data world. It will take a subset of data. Okay, आपके पास बहुत सारा डेटा हो सकता है डेटा वर्ल्ड में, आपको उसमें से जो चाहिए to get answers to your question वो आप निकाल के लोगे. Are you getting this? Yes. Now transform के बाद क्या आता है? किसको याद है? 6 super steps. What comes after raptor? It is organize. And what is the last one? Can you tell me? It is report. Clear hai? Everyone remember this raptor, very important. Now you have already studied ki in Data Vault we have 5 hubs. So I had time hub, I had person hub, I had object, I had location, and finally I had event. Correct? Now this is a diagram that you are well aware of. Correct? I don't have to explain this diagram to you again. ये जो line है ये somehow missing है, तो ये line assume कर लेना. Okay? ये जो lines है ये थोड़ा missing लग रहा है, but ये lines assume कर लेना. The earlier diagrams are correct. Okay? Now, when we are talking about transform superstep, we are talking about a Sun model. So Sun model is used for something that is called as dimension consolidation. It is used for something that is called as dimension consolidation. So I need to explain the data relationships with the business without exposing it to the technical details required to complete the transformation processing. So मुझे without showing the technical details एक model create करना है. Okay? अभी हब में बहुत सारा डेटा होगा. Yes or no? आपको सारा डेटा चाहिए? नहीं, आपको उसमें से selected डेटा चाहिए. Right? See, you know many students they ask me कि मैम पहले डेटा लेक बनाया, फिर उससे डेटा लिया एंड डेटा वॉल्ट बना लिया, फिर उससे डेटा ले रहे हो, फिर डेटा वेयरहाउस बना रहे हो, फिर डेटा वेयरहाउस से डेटा मार्ट बना रहे हो. करेक्ट? ये सब क्यों करना है? डायरेक्टली डेटा लेक से छोटा सा डेटा ले लो एंड काम करो. राइट? व्हाई आर वी नॉट डूइंग दिस? Simple cheese. You will feel that ki this is a layman's example. It is a layman's example, but it is an example that perfectly fits this situation. Okay? Now, you go to a shop. Okay? You see various clothes there. Do you buy all the clothes there? No. You try few clothes. Yes. Do you buy all the clothes that you try? No. You select a subset out of it and then you buy them. Correct? You come home, you keep those clothes in your cupboard, right? Do you always, suppose I have to go for 2 days tour, so will I carry all my clothes from my cupboard? No. I carry only selected clothes. And do you think I'll wear all those clothes on first day of the tour? No. I'll choose one dress that I'm going to wear that day. Yes or no? But मुझे एक दिन में एक ही ड्रेस पहनना है, इसीलिए आप ये तो नहीं करते हो कि रोज मॉर्निंग में जाके शॉप में जाके ड्रेस खरीदते हो एंड देन यू वेयर द ड्रेस फॉर रेस्ट ऑफ द डे. And again second day you go ahead, you buy a new dress and then you change the old one. ऐसा तो नहीं होता है ना? Are you getting what I want to tell you? इसीलिए वो पूरा प्रोसेस है. डेटा लेक से डेटा वॉल्ट, डेटा वॉल्ट से डेटा वेयरहाउस, डेटा वेयरहाउस से डेटा मार्ट. Am I very clear on this? Yes? Okay. Now, in my transform super step, I will have the concepts of dimension and fact. I will have the concepts of what? Dimension and fact. Because see, when you are talking in terms of data vault, I repeat, when you are talking in terms of data vault, you are talking in terms of hub, link and satellites. Whereas now when I am talking in terms of data warehouse, I am talking in terms of dimension and fact. अभी हब से मुझे जो भी डेटा चाहिए वो मैं डेटा ले लूँगी. Okay? and the connection between the two dimensions now is shown as a fact. The connection or the linkage between the two dimensions is shown as a fact. Am I very clear on this? Now, I want you to recall, have I taught you something called as missing value? Yes. So, did we see how do we deal with missing values? Remember? Drop NA and fill NA. These two functions we had done. Correct? Now this is a topic which is an extension to the missing value topic. Okay, it is a missing value topic only. It is just an extension to that topic. Okay. Now, आपके पास अगर missing values है तो you need to have some mechanism to deal with those missing values. Okay. Now, अगर मेरे पास inconsistent data है, अगर मेरे पास incomplete data है, then I cannot generate an insight out of that data. It is not possible to generate the insight out of that inconsistent, incomplete data. Okay? अभी ये missing values आते ही क्यों है? क्या reasons होते हैं ये missing values मुझे data में मिलने के? Okay? So the very first one is the data fields rename during an upgrade. So वो data field rename हो जाता है, फिर उसके values उसके बाद update नहीं होते हैं, तो problems आ जाता है. Okay? Next, migration process from old system to new system where mappings are incomplete. Old system से नए system में चीज़ें import की जा रही है, but जो mapping है वो अच्छे से नहीं हो रहा है. Okay, so the data is there in old system, but because the mapping is not proper, वो new system में आता ही नहीं है. Okay, now incorrect table supplied in the loading specification by the subject matter expert. Incorrect table is given, so there is no chance that you get the proper data in this case. The data is simply not recorded as it was not available. अभी आप लोगों ने मुझे अगर पूछा कि मैम आपका आधार नंबर क्या है, मुझे नहीं पता है अभी. इट वॉज नॉट अवेलेबल विथ मी, इट वॉज नॉट रिकॉर्डेड. गॉट माई पॉइंट? एंड द नेक्स्ट वन इज फॉर लीगल रीजंस. देयर आर सर्टेन रेगुलेशंस कॉल्ड एज जनरल डेटा प्रोटेक्शन रेगुलेशन, अंडर विच द पीपल गेट द चॉइस नॉट टू डिस्क्लोज सर्टेन इंफॉर्मेशन. ओके, सो अगर ऐसा कुछ है, अगर कुछ लीगल रीजंस है, देन पीपल में चूज कि इट इज माई राइट नॉट टू डिस्क्लोज द इंफॉर्मेशन, आई विल नॉट डिस्क्लोज इट. सो वो वैल्यू भी फिर से मिसिंग वैल्यू में चला जाता है. एनी डाउट? रीड द लास्ट पॉइंट. समवन else's bad data science, people and projects make mistake. So someone else has made a mistake, they did not record the data properly or they recorded the data that was incomplete. किसी ने कुछ तो गलती किया है. ओके, इसलिए वो डेटा मिसिंग है. अभी hypothesis testing. I have already taught you what is hypothesis testing. Hypothesis testing is a process by which the statistical tests, they are used to check whether my hypothesis is true or my hypothesis is false. So I get to choose, or I get to decide if the hypothesis is to be accepted or the hypothesis is to be rejected depending upon the result of the test. Do you guys remember which two tests did we observe or did we study? We studied two tests yesterday. You remember? Absolutely correct. So चाय स्क्वायर टेस्ट क्या था? मैंने आपको बोला था कि चाय स्क्वायर टेस्ट के दो पार्ट्स होते हैं, मैं आपको नेक्स्ट टाइम बताऊंगी. सो चाय स्क्वायर टेस्ट का एक पार्ट होता है गुडनेस ऑफ फिट टेस्ट, ओके, सो मुझे सिर्फ चेक करना है कि सैंपल डेटा पॉपुलेशन को मैच करता है या नहीं. ओके, दूसरा है चाई स्क्वायर टेस्ट फॉर इंडिपेंडेंस, जो दो वेरिएबल्स को कंपेयर करता है इन द कंटिंजेंसी टेबल टू चेक इफ दे आर रिलेटेड. ओके, सो अगर कैटेगरिकल वेरिएबल्स है तो हाउ दे आर डिफरेंट फ्रॉम ईच अदर. योर ऑब्जर्व्ड वैल्यूज एंड योर एस्टिमेटेड वैल्यूज आर दे डिफरेंट फ्रॉम ईच अदर. ये सब चेक करने के लिए चाई स्क्वायर टेस्ट यूज होता है. लेट अस टेक 2 एग्जांपल्स ऑफ चाई स्क्वायर टेस्ट. एक एग्जांपल मैंने आपको ऑलरेडी दिया है कि मेरे पास शॉप खोलने के लिए 2 ऑप्शंस हैं. एक, मैं स्टैंड अलोन लोकेशन पे शॉप खोल सकती हूँ. दूसरा, आई कैन ओपन माई शॉप इन अ मॉल. करेक्ट. अब उसमें एक्सपेक्टेड फ्रीक्वेंसी क्या होगा? 50-50. अगर मेरे पास 100 शॉप्स है तो 50 शॉप्स आर इन स्टैंड अलोन लोकेशन, 50 शॉप्स आर इन मॉल. बट अभी मैंने रिसर्च करके ये पता किया है कि नहीं, स्टैंड अलोन लोकेशन में ना ज्यादा शॉप्स है. सो मेरा डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन है 60-40. 60 शॉप्स इन द स्टैंड अलोन लोकेशन एंड 40 शॉप्स इन द मॉल. सो मुझे ये चेक करना है कि मेरा जो ऑब्जर्व्ड वैल्यू है जो है 60-40 एंड मेरा जो एक्सपेक्टेड वैल्यू है 50-50, उसमें सच में कुछ डिफरेंस है या कुछ भी डिफरेंस नहीं है. तो आई विल परफॉर्म चाई स्क्वायर टेस्ट, बट आई विल परफॉर्म गुडनेस ऑफ फिट. ओके, मैं कौन सा चाई स्क्वायर टेस्ट परफॉर्म करूंगी? चाई स्क्वायर गुडनेस ऑफ फिट टेस्ट. ओके, अभी लेट्स से दैट मुझे सिर्फ मॉल का शॉप का लोकेशन नहीं, मुझे ये भी देखना है कि मेरे पास अगर फीमेल कस्टमर्स आते हैं एंड मेल कस्टमर्स आते हैं तो वो ज्यादा कौन सा लोकेशन प्रिफर करते हैं. यू आर गेटिंग इट? मीन्स द मेल्स विल प्रिफर स्टैंड अलोन शॉप्स और द शॉप्स इन मॉल, and the females also will prefer the shops in mall or they will prefer standalone shops. ये अगर मुझे predict करना है तो don't you think मेरे पास अभी 2 variables हो जाते हैं. एक तो gender मेरा variable हो जाता है and दूसरा location of shop मेरा variable हो जाता है. Yes or no? So when I am having 2 variables in my contingency table and if I want to see if they are related, which chi square test I'll use? I will use chi square test for independence. Am I very clear on this? Yes? Okay. Now, I want you to tell me what is univariate analysis. I have already taught this to you. So this is a revision for you. Tell me, what is univariate analysis? Uni means what? Yes. Variate means what? Variable. So when I am studying one variable, it is called as what? Univariate analysis. Understood? Okay. नाउ यूनिवेरिएट एनालिसिस के लिए कौन से टेस्ट यूज कर सकते हो? टी टेस्ट, एनोवा, मैन विटनी यू टेस्ट, विल्कोसन साइन रैंक टेस्ट या लॉजिस्टिक रिग्रेशन. ओके, बाइवेरिएट एनालिसिस में क्या होता है? हाउ मेनी वेरिएबल्स आई एम हैविंग? आई एम हैविंग 2 वेरिएबल्स. आई एम हैविंग व्हाट? 2 वेरिएबल्स. ओके. There are different types of graphs that I can use to show the bivariate analysis. So अगर दोनों variables मेरे continuous है तो scatter plot यूज किया जा सकता है. जब एक variable categorical है and दूसरा variable continuous है तो blocks plot यूज किया जा सकता है. अगर एक categorical variable है and दूसरा continuous है then blocks plot is common. And if both variables are categorical, then there is a plot called as MOSAIC plot. You can just pronounce it on your own. It is used. Okay, so depending upon what type of variables you are dealing with, your graph will change. Okay, multivariate में क्या होता है? In multivariate, we are talking about multiple variables. So there are 3 or more than 3 variables. Then it is called as a multivariate analysis. Now we have lot of techniques for multivariate analysis. Some of them are principal component analysis, or you have a technique called as LDA. You have a technique called as PLS, that is partial least square. You have partial least square discriminant analysis. You have something called as ANN, that is artificial neural networks, etc. Okay. Now, moving on to the next concept of linear regression. What is linear regression? What are we trying to do in linear regression? We are trying to establish the relationship between the input variable and the output variable, and we are assuming that the relationship is linear, which can be represented with the help of some kind of equation. Okay. Now, linear regression के types क्या है ये हम लोग ने already देखा है. I hope you guys remember the equation and the types of linear regression. Yes. So if you ask me what answer should we prepare for linear regression, I will suggest that you prepare the answer for linear regression which is given in an earlier chapter. Okay, because this is a short answer if I consider it as to be, to be worth of 6 marks. Am I very clear on this, guys? Yes. Now, going ahead, let us take an example over here. What is the person's expected income? If I want to answer this question, I will go ahead with my linear regression. But if I just want to know whether the applicant will default on loan or no, I will go with logistic regression. So what is logistic regression? I am trying to ask binary questions. Okay, I am trying to ask which questions? Binary questions. इस word में the subword di, it actually means die. So 2. Okay. So what is the probability of attending college? Yes or no? Will I finish my lunch or no? Yes or no? So generally जो yes no type of questions होते हैं या categories है आपके पास. Not every time 2, but more than 2, 3, 4, 5 categories are there. Then you will go with logistic regression. Okay. Logistic regression में generally जो आपके पास dependent variable होता है, it is either a nominal variable or it is an ordinal variable. Okay. Remember I had taught you different types of logistic regressions also yesterday. So we have seen everything of this in detail in the last lecture. Yes. Any doubt till now? Any doubt, students? Okay. Now we will start with something called as clustering techniques.